Hey, what's up? Zach here, and these are the 3 biggest pros and cons of the adidas Trae Young one. And even though the Trae Youngs are really tech heavy, and personally I really like the design, there are a few pitfalls to this shoe and they are not great for everybody, so make sure you stay to the end before you make a buying decision. Now, number 1, the first biggest pro and con of the Trae Young one is their upper design, because the uppers are made a little bit wider and obviously more minimalist than some other shoes, but even for people who like a more minimalist and low top shoe, there are some pitfalls to these. Now, first of all, they do require quite a bit more break-in in the ankle region of the uppers because of how the slipper tongue is and how the collar sits, because the forefoot is wider and the heel counter is higher, so they hold your foot in well, but that does come at a sacrifice of some comfort on the inside of the ankle. That is until the midsole breaks in and your foot starts sitting a few millimeters lower in the shoe. The other big pro and con in the uppers is the lacing. They are a really wide set lace pattern, which is great for locking you in, but since Adidas kind of skipped some eyelets and made those eyelets outriggers to make them a little more minimalist, there's just not going to be that ultra secure feeling in the uppers, especially in the mid part of your foot. But the flip side to that feeling is the foot actually does stay pretty secure in the shoe as long as you're the right foot type for the shoe, which I'll get to in a little bit. Now, the next big pro and con, of course, is the midsole design. Now, these are a bed of boost in the heel with a light strike carrier. Now, in my opinion, this is the optimal foam setup for an Adidas shoe. You got boost in the heel for shock absorption and light strike for more nimble movement. And because Adidas put this maximalist shank here in the middle, the light strike isn't going to bottom out as fast as some other Adidas models would because it's being stress shielded by all this polypropylene here. And this midsole plays tremendously in concert with the outsole design of the Trae Youngs. Now, it has this offset herringbone pattern mixed with a more radial pattern in the heel, and most important, an outsole tread that rides up really high on the toe cap guard. But what was a really pleasant surprise was the upper durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. On this durability felt here on the inside or medial side of the toe cap, I mean, barely a scuff on it. It did not get through the durability guard, and even just on the regular upper layer, just that textile layer, it did not get through the second layer of the upper. So these uppers, even though they are a little bit softer, definitely hold up really well, even to strong abrasion. So with all this combined, it's no wonder I came in at a pretty fast 14.66 seconds on the suicide test, because on corners, even though these are minimalist and low top, the grip of the outsole and the width of the flange, just the forefoot in general, just did not allow for any slippage or balance loss whatsoever. So I lost 0 time on corners versus a lot of other basketball shoes. Now, the only problem with that is on straightaways, because of that wide forefoot, I really had to put some force into the forefoot of these shoes during my push-off phase of gait. So these shoes are definitely going to give you a ton of speed around corners, but they're not going to give you a ton of assist on the straightaways. But piggybacking off the suicide test, when you look at the outsole durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, I mean, not even a millimeter of damage. So not only do they grab those outdoor courts really well, they'll also hold up on those outdoor courts really well, even after repeated cutting and pivoting. But to once again burst the bubble, the downside to that is that this rubber requires significant warming time on hardwood courts. I found the first few corners I took were pretty treacherous until that rubber warmed up and began grabbing the hardwood. But after that period of warming, they actually did just fine. And the biggest pro and con for sure is the fit, because remember, these are certainly not for everybody. First off, I think the best showcase of the shape of these is the jump height test. And I got 34 centimeters on average, which for a shoe that is seemingly minimal with such an intuitive midsole design, I kind of figured I'd get a little bit of a better lift. But because that forefoot is so boxy and they allow a little pronation, they can sometimes be awkward to get off the ground just due to the shape of the shoe. And that's also why they were a little harder to get speed on straightaways during the suicide test. And with that being said, the shape of these is going to be best for medium and wide footers. I'd say if you're a narrow foot, maybe just look somewhere else, or go down a size and wear 2 pairs of socks, or use an ankle grip, which if you don't know what those are, I'll link them down below. But just remember, if you are a narrow foot or just have a narrow heel, remember what I said when we talked about the uppers, the lacing system is not as strong here in the midfoot. So if you're a wider foot, it's gonna fill the shoe and you're gonna get a lot of stability for minimal lacing. However, if you are a narrow foot player, your foot's gonna be moving around like crazy in the forefoot, and you're not gonna get that stability that you would if you were a more generous medium or wide-footed player. Now also, if you suffer from a painful flat foot, because the collar on these is really low and it's a slipper tongue, Young, these do allow more pronation, so maybe watch out for that, and if you do get these, an orthotic would definitely help. But on the flip side, if you're an ankle sprainer and want a minimalist low top option, these probably are the best around right now for that. And I think just overall best playing styles for the Trae Young ones are people who want ultra stable outdoor court movement. If you're trying to keep your footing and balance in a crowd or want to make quick, clean cuts in a low to the ground package, these will do really well for you. They're also terrific for side to side speed and speed in really small confined spaces. So they can also give you a bit of a footwork creativity boost when your back's in a corner. But once you get into open space, just don't expect a ton of straight line speed or vertical assist. These are meant more for a ground assault. And if you are using these on hardwood, just make sure to do some footwork drills prior to playing them to get that rubber warmed up, and your hamstrings will thank you. And before I forget, just as an FYI to all the tennis, pickleball, and paddle players who watch this channel, if you're looking for a low to the ground Adidas shoe with the performance and durability of their heavier tennis and court models, these are a great crossover shoe, and in my opinion could be better for a lot of players than even the Adidas Ubersonic 4. But I'd also love to hear from you, since I have reviewed a lot more higher top and more maximalist shoes recently. I'd love to know if you're interested in something with the more slipper tongue design and more minimal design, especially in the uppers. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you're watching this video saying, yeah, that's all well and good, however, I want a shoe that's going to help me with my vertical takeoff, and make sure you check out my teardown and review of the Nike GT Jump up here, and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you in the next video.